I'm Rabbi Patrick, and welcome to Kehila. Dearest friends, part of my job is to explain what Kehila is. And almost everyone gets it. We're a synagogue. We do synagogue things, Jewish things. We all know that a synagogue is not just a building, though. It's not just a sanctuary flanked by classrooms, it's something more. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about with this Rosh Hashanah sermon. And actually, it's not really a sermon like the sermon I'm going to give on Rosh Hashanah, but it's a few other thoughts mixed with some other thoughts. So don't worry, this isn't a spoiler. These are just a few things that I've been thinking about in the past year, things that I want us to get involved in, things I want us to do, mixed in with a little bit of what I'm going to say on our high holidays and a call to action. So here we go. There are three responsibilities which qualify a synagogue's existence, and they are that we are a Beit Tefillah, a Beit Midrash, and a Beit Knesset. That can be considered a problem for some people because we don't have a Beit, we don't have a house. But here's the thing about that. So Beit or Bayit actually is the letter B, as we would call it in English, and if you look at it pictographically, I don't know if that's the right word or not. Maybe hieroglyphically. I don't know. I forget what that word is. But anyway, you look at the image, and it actually is kind of a little house. Um, so a bayit, a bait, doesn't just have to be a house like a physical structure, though. It can also be a school of thought, like Beit Hillel, Beit Shammai. So that's another way of looking at this word. It's not just the structure, because again, we all know that a synagogue is more than a building. If we had a building, Kehila that is, we wouldn't be any more a synagogue. And if we didn't have a building anymore, we wouldn't be less of a synagogue. But we think of the synagogue as the real estate. That's how our minds operate. But anyway, to be a Beit Tefillah, a Beit Midrash, or a Beit Knesset, those things are about being a school of something, being a corporation, if you will, or an incorporation. So, do we live up to those standards set by our tradition? Well, I think we do. So, I just wanted to give you a few examples of a Beit Tefillah, a Beit Midrash, and a Beit Knesset, and maybe some things that we could do around there. I'll also add that I'm reading this off of paper, so you might hear some paper moving around a bit. And this is the exact same paper that I'm going to use for our high holidays, even if right now I'm riffing and I have notes for things that I'm going to say here that I'm not going to say there, and some different kinds of conclusions. All right, so let's get to prayer though. So we have people come over the house all the time and want to talk about spiritual issues. Spiritual issues tend to be a more in the tiki room kind of thing than, Starbucks. So I'm sitting in this tiki room of ours here in the house, and I'm talking to a young woman who is Jewish, didn't have much of a Jewish education, and her boyfriend is Christian. And so she goes to church with him. And by the way, I see this all the time. It's not uncommon. And the thing is, as a young person who's not in college, doesn't have access to like a Hillel or something like that, she's wanting to go deeper into Jewish community and Jewish learning and very specifically tefillah. Because I feel like it's easy for any of us to go to any church anywhere and get baptized probably on the spot and be handed a book of common prayer, if that's a thing, or to be given a QR code to download all of the songs that some groovy church does. But for this young woman, it's like, well, how do I get started in any of this? Right? Because even though we have every app in the world, even though we have access to all the information on the planet in our pockets, sometimes it just takes a person to person moment to get the ball rolling for somebody, right? This young woman probably wouldn't go to church if it weren't for the fact that she has a boyfriend who is meaningful to her. And she wants to celebrate what it means for him to go to church, and he would like to celebrate what it means for her to be Jewish. It's actually a very loving thing to do. But anyway, back to her. So I gave her some prayer books and some different things to read, and that was that. So in that way, Beit Tefillah. And of course, when people come over to our house for a Shabbat dinner, we're going to sing a bunch of songs. And as we all know, those songs aren't songs, right? They're prayers set to melody. What about the bar mitzvah we had here in the house, in the living room, right? Our friend Dylan, in his wheelchair, we leaned the scroll that we have kind of up against his wheelchair while we said the Shema together. Yeah, that's a house of prayer, isn't it? When a middle-aged mom and a 20-something college student and some retirees, newly married couples, maybe a young professional who desperately wants to find their beloved and heard that maybe this kooky group of Jews out in Chesterfield might have some options. When we're all together, everyone gathers, and you can see like one of my favorite things during the service when kids clearly aren't paying attention and they're like running around and being nuts, jumping up and jumping up and down on that big poof thing that we have, like that huge beanbag chair thing. Yeah, when we're all crammed up on couches or sitting on pillows on the floor, that's a beit tefillah. That's a house of prayer. So my question for you is this an area you want to grow in? Because just like the young woman in our story, we're here for you. We're here to talk to you. There's apps for that. There's books for that. Lord knows I can print out pages and pages and pages of paper. But Kehila is indeed a beit tefillah, and we're here for you for that. Okay, so what about the next part? A house of learning. To me, it's quite interesting how much we've changed in that area in the past year. Remember, we used to have these classes people would go to, like when we were at Gather. It was very formal, like a formal classroom. And then we just noticed dwindling numbers. People were just kind of losing interest. And it wasn't they were losing interest in the topic, it's just that maybe that was one season. And now we're ready to move into another season. And I think this is a season of decentralized learning. So maybe it's not about you go to the classroom and you sit down and Rabbi Patrick sets up whatever the material is going to be. For example, I had this one woman who's like, I really want to learn about kashrut. And then everybody was like, oh, yeah, yeah, we want to learn too. We want to learn too. Okay, fine. I set up the class. I think out of 1,200 people who know what we're up to, like six RSVP'd, six or seven. And so I was like, cool, sure, that's fine. Got all the materials together. And then whenever we have an event, one of the things that we do is we give you a phone number to text or to leave a voicemail in case you can't make it. Because we're a small community, if someone doesn't come, we really recognize it. And we want to make sure they're okay. So we send out that email, right? Almost immediately. "Oh, Rabbi, I'm so sorry, I've work. Oh, Rabbi, I'm so sorry, like, health. Oh, my Rabbi, so sorry, my" right? Down to, like, no one is coming. And I'll be honest with you, we've had a few examples of that, where people really wanted a topic, and then it just dwindles down to nobody. So, you could take that personally, or what you could say is, "Hey, we're still a Beit Midrash. We're just gonna learn in some different ways." So, I'm super jealous of Matt in spiritual school because wow, like Matt's awesome. People love that Discord server, love learning the things that Matt has to talk about the intersection of mysticism and mitzvot. Or Edva, like let's talk about Edva and those B'nai Mitzvah kids. Like those kids would not get an education if it weren't for Edva. I know that in theory, as the rabbi, I could handle that. No, I can't. Edva's awesome. I do my part. Edva is the true warrior in this. She gets on Zoom with the kids and she just makes it about them and what they're interested in. It's awesome. I found some of my most meaningful teaching and learning moments this past year to be coffee with the rabbi. So when we set up coffee with the rabbi, it was just kind of like, look, people don't want to come to classes. And, we limit the number of services we do in a month because we found that it kind of just divides the community a little bit. When I say divide, I don't mean divide in some angry way. I mean, just literally people choose the thing they're going to come to. So if you give them too many options, not a lot of people show up. Sometimes that can be a problem if you have a limited number of people. And if there's a certain number of people you hope will come to make the event, like you need a minion for Kaddish, let's say, things like that. Anyway, so I didn't really know what coffee with the rabbi was going to be. I figured no one would care. I figured no one would be interested in hanging out. Like, because look, okay, In 1 week, I had 3 people whose names I will not mention, but you know who you are, who, like, referred to me as either the dad or having dad energy. And, like, who wants to hang out with dad? Come on, right? But it turns out, yeah, um, I've had some really great conversations. We've done a lot of learning. Some of it is spirituality, some of it's mental health, some of it is just getting to know you, right? People see me at events and they want to hang out and they want to learn if Kahila is right for them. And a little hard to do when the rabbi's talking to 20 other people. So it's incredible. Did you know that 2 of our Kahila members are prolific writers and they text each other these like 20-minute long pieces? Did you know that we have people who are interested in doing text study, like a Pirkei Avot or something like that? It's awesome, right? And maybe it needs me, and maybe it doesn't. That's fantastic. So does any of that sound interesting? Do you have a Jewish topic you're interested in? Something you want to learn more about, something you want to get a little bit deeper in? I think we can do that because guess what? Kihila, in all its inventive, creative ways, is a Beit Midrash. And then the last thing is a Beit Knesset, a house of assembly. Now, it seems obvious that we would be a house of assembly, right? Because we do stuff, right? If you do the first 2 things, then maybe you do all the things, but actually, that's not it. The rabbis didn't conceive of a Beit Knesset as being just, the catch all term for the other times when you get together. Assembly is not just, of course, about getting together, even though we do that. Hey, listen, Art Factory, we got that High Holidays event. That's going to be great. Socializing, hanging out with the kids, it's going to be pretty darn cute. But it's not just about getting together. We've never thought of Kahila's success being about butts in seats. That's just not who we are. Assembly is about whether you see yourself as part of the community. That's the idea. Do you find yourself becoming a more loving partner, a more patient parent, a more connected friend because you've participated in Kahila, right? Assembly is not just butts and seats. That's movie theater logic, that's concert logic. We don't use that. We're looking for people who care about intentional, purpose driven community. That's a Beit Knesset. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. We also have other things going on. We have Kahila Cares. Thank you, Pam and Adam, for that one. So, in that way, we're a house of compassion. Or maybe you're someone whose life cycle I got to officiate, a wedding, bar mitzvah, conversion. How much of Judaism is not only celebrating God through Shabbat and holidays, but celebrating God through both the joyous and the hardest moments of people's lives? A Beit Chachaim, a house of life, and all of its moments. So let's put it all together: prayer, learning, assembly, compassion, life. Not too bad for a small community meeting for high holidays, this year in an office building in Bon Air. Any of that, right? Any of those things: prayer, learning, assembly, compassion, whatever it may be, it's all there for you right here in our community. Because here's the deal. Let me be perfectly honest with you. And I sent an email out about this not too long ago. Um, I'm distraught over the level of violence in this country. I'm uh, truly at a loss in some ways. You think about the young woman who was just coming home from work, got stabbed on the public transit. You know, you think about the assassination of a political commentator. You think about the school shootings, right? The kids that were in their church school, and they were just praying for the opening day of school, and they lost their lives. I'm exhausted by it. I'm absolutely exhausted by it. And the thing about it is, I have colleagues who have told me that they don't have faith in humanity anymore, and that this is why they are so passionate about this Rosh Hashanah in particular, right? We crown the king, and God, we need you more right now than we've ever needed you. And so they've lost faith in humanity. and are taking that faith that they'd like to have there and just throwing it back to God, right? Giving it to God and saying, we need you right now. We choose you. Please intervene. I don't know that that's how I approach this theologically, only as much as I still have faith in people. I still have a lot of faith in people. I've had 2 weddings this weekend, and to be able to sanctify a loving relationship is a powerful gift. It's one of those things that I take very seriously in my rabbinical life. And it was incredible to see that during a time when there's just so much turmoil and so much division, people fall in love and they want to get married, and not in this sort of, go to the courthouse quickly, blah, blah, blah type stuff, but they want their friends there. And maybe that's going to be a wedding outdoors with cupcakes afterwards. Maybe that's going to be, renting a small restaurant for the night. Or maybe it's, you're renting part of a vineyard, which is what I had last night. Either way, though, they're choosing each other and they're choosing the future. You get married because you want someone to be your next of kin, your ride or die, the person who's going to be there by the bedside. You don't marry just because you love someone. You don't have to do that, right? In today's times, you don't marry just to have kids, right? There's plenty of unmarried parents. You don't have to marry today, right? Socially, our rules have changed a little bit. Cohabitation, right? How common is that? Almost all of my couples I know are cohabitating before they marry. So the question is why? And the answer is very simple. Yes, there is the neurobiology of pair bonding and all that podcaster stuff, that pop science stuff. But it's truly because you want to elevate someone to be your next of kin. You want them to be above all of your family members. And you want to show the world that that person is your Ezer Kenegdo, right? Your sustainer beside you. Sometimes the person you're going to butt heads with, but in a loving way because you help to shape one another. So I have these 2 weddings, and it doesn't mean that the troubles of the world go away. There's still war, there's still genocide, there's still people who are plotting terrible things to each other, even here in the United States, I bet. But it's different. Because just in these moments, the world disappears and you recognize that love always wins. So when I think about my prayers for you this Rosh Hashanah, it's that you fully embrace life, just like these couples that I've married. Fully embrace life through Kahila, right? Be part of the Beit Tefillah, be part of the Beit Midrash, be part of the Beit Knesset, the Beit Chachaim, the House of Life, the Beit Rachamim, with Kahila Cares. Give generously, because there are people who can't afford tickets, who can't afford a bar mitzvah, who can't afford a wedding. And what helps to offset those costs for them is your generous support. That also includes the mental health fund, groceries, so many other things. We need you. We need you because Kahila is nothing without a community. We are, in fact, one word, community. So thank you. Thank you for being part of this community. And thank you for another Jewish year. Shana Tova.